Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
It's The In Show, Australia's only show dedicated to innovation from Adelaide, Australia and across the globe.
David Grice and Troy Sincock. It's The In Show podcast where we hear all these inspirational ideas from people who really put things on the line to make the world a better place for others.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to today, Troy, because we're going into the world of the arts and the fringe.
Yeah, we're both from the world of music and, the arts is something that's very close to us. We do this podcast in Adelaide, South Australia, and the city has literally transformed in the last couple of days.
Unbelievable. There's just festoon lighting all over the city. The parklands have been turned into these massive areas where people can gather and see shows and multiple venues and bars, and the vibe around the city at the moment is absolutely extraordinary.
It almost feels like it has doubled in population. Adelaide Fringe is Australia's largest open access festival. It's internationally renowned, and artists from not only here in Australia but right across the globe take over the city, and hundreds of different pop-up venues like there's parks and warehouses and laneways, as well as art galleries and theatres, hotels, cafes. It's one of the most diverse arts festivals in the world, and Heather Croal is director and CEO of the Adelaide Fringe. So what does it actually take to put it on, Heather?
Well, it takes a lot of people. Right now, there's a couple of hundred people back at the Adelaide Fringe office, and also throughout the park and all sorts of other places, getting the Fringe ready and getting everything ready to roll.
So it really is a testament to people power.
It is, and for most people, it's a passionate job as well. It's a job that we do for the love. The arts is not a great, it's not a great money maker, but it's something that we all just get so much back from because we just all love the arts so much, and it's a job that's just a passion. We really love it.
I mean, the reputation of the Adelaide Fringe really sort of precedes itself, doesn't it? When you think of Adelaide and South Australia, you think of the Adelaide Fringe.
Absolutely. I think the Adelaide Fringe is known around the world, and we recently did some surveys interstate as well, and we had over 40% of survey respondents interstate say that they'd heard of the Adelaide Fringe, and 9% of people interstate that we surveyed said they'd been to the Adelaide Fringe. So that's pretty amazing. And, I mean, in terms of Adelaide, it's, obviously way higher. We last year had around about 70% of Adelaide people came to the Fringe. So, the awareness of the Adelaide Fringe is huge, and the love for it is even bigger. And we have been going for nearly 60 years. So the love for the Fringe is alive and well in all generations.
It's absolutely extraordinary. I mean, it makes me think of, when the Beatles came to town in 1964, when, pretty much it mobilised almost the entire population of the state. When you talk about 70%, we're getting pretty close to that as well.
Pretty close, yeah. And in 1964, the Fringe, had already been born. We were born in 1960. Mm-hmm. And in 1964, we had about 50 shows in the Adelaide Fringe. And then obviously as the decades went on and on, we just had more and more Fringe shows, more and more venues. And because it's an open access festival, we every year see new things coming. Every year, like we see more and more venues coming on. If you think back to, the 80s, there was no garden, there was no croquet club, no gluttony. There was nothing out in the parks, in the tents like that. So we were more sort of in some little pubs, clubs. We were down at the Lion Arts Centre at some point. Then, so the Fringe has morphed and grown in an accumulative way because the people that came back then are still coming, but there's more people coming now. And even the artists, some of those artists have still been, coming for decades, and they still come back. And the way that the Fringe is now just growing out into the suburbs, out into the regions, I can't think of anything that couldn't be the Fringe, everything. Everywhere there's a possibility. I mean, this studio could be a Fringe show venue. That alley, the little alley courtyard out there, that could be a Fringe venue. The shop, the bar. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that isn't a Fringe venue. What
do you think is at the heart of the Adelaide Fringe? I get that it's so much driven by people power and word has spread over the years, but at the heart of it seems to really be people's self-expression, the opportunity to just get something out into the world.
Yeah, and I mean, we are a celebration of free speech because we really encourage everyone to get on and be part of it. It obviously takes a lot of hard work as well. I mean, these artists are working really hard preparing the show. The venue people are working so hard as well. The venues are not run by the Adelaide Fringe, so everything about the Fringe is open access. So if you want to be a Fringe venue, you can. You have to show some entrepreneurial flair and spirit to get the word out and make sure people come to your venue, just like the way the artists have to show that exact same flair to get people to buy their tickets to see their shows. So we're here to try and make sure that when people have got something they want to say and share with the world, that they can do it and get the most out of their experience, sell the most tickets that they can, and have a great time in the process.
Is there anything that you wouldn't allow to be part of the Fringe?
If it's illegal, we can't we can't have it in the Fringe. No, look, there's nothing, as I say, and if it's not illegal, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. Now, often Adelaide is compared to Edinburgh. Of course, yes. Edinburgh has a massive Fringe as well. What's the difference between the two, or is it effectively the same template?
Adelaide and Edinburgh are the two biggest fringes in the world. We're both born out of that sort of rebellious artist kind of desire to jump out and say something that isn't in a curated festival. I don't want to have a gatekeeper. I just want to get out there and do it. Mm-hmm. That we were both festivals that were born in that spirit, in that disruptor kind of spirit. Mm-hmm. We have grown and grown and grown over the decades in the same ways. Edinburgh experiences Fringe like we do, like it takes over the city completely. Mm-hmm. I guess, Edinburgh is bigger. We've got about 1,000 shows. They've got a couple of thousand shows. Mm-hmm. But we are the second biggest after Edinburgh. The things that we've got that they don't have are sunshine, balmy nights. Adelaide Fringe has, modelled itself a lot on Edinburgh in its early years from the beginning. And so Edinburgh we look up to as an amazing guide. But some things have gone the other way. So, for example, the outdoor pop-up hubs that we've got, Edinburgh didn't have those, and it now does have them. Mm-hmm. So that was very much an Adelaide Fringe initiative that we innovated in there, and then they copied that. But we share a lot with each other. We have a sister relationship in many ways, and we share a lot of knowledge. We have a lot of staff that swap between the two. Mm-hmm. We're both also significant marketplaces for artists. So behind the scenes, not in the public-facing sort of arena of the Fringe, but behind the scenes, we have both Edinburgh and Adelaide attract hundreds of programmers, other festival directors and things like that who come here to discover talent. So they're here scouting. They're trying to find shows. It's one of the big things that brings artists to do a show in Adelaide Fringe. Of course, they want to sell tickets. Of course, they need to, because that's the way they make their income. Mm. But they're also hoping that a festival director from somewhere around the world is sitting in the audience and might program them for the future so that they can get some sustainability in their art.
What an incredible opportunity. And of course, we all know that it's, you'd never enter the arts thinking it's going to be an easy ride. Like there's a lot of work to be done. And the fact that you're facilitating that opportunity is magnificent.
Yeah. I mean, we listen to when artists say we want this at the Fringe or we need more of this or more of that. I'm not saying we can just we can do it all, because we can't. But we do take it very seriously, and we listen and we think, okay, so when artists were saying to us, over the years that they find it very hard to make a Fringe season financially viable because they've got to pay for so much stuff. They've got to pay for their venue, they've got to pay for their marketing, pay to register, all that sort of stuff, and pay for their ticket clip. So we said, okay, what could we do that would really change their box office settlement so that they could get more in their pocket? And so we spent many months talking with the state government and saying, look, there's all these other fringes in the world. What can we do to make ours the best for artists and make the artists keep coming back and make Adelaide Fringe the one that that is financially viable? And so we reduced what is called inside fees. Inside fees are charged by pretty much every ticketing agency everywhere, and they're often about 10% of the ticket price or even more.
Yep.
And so we have zeroed the inside fees. And that's a big cut for us in terms of income to pay for our staff and our services. So then we said to the state government, could you give us that subsidy so that we're not taking money from the artists, so that more money's going to the artists and that the government's backing us to deliver the services. And that has been a huge game changer. And this year's the first year that's going to come in. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, that would absolutely change the face of the Adelaide Fringe.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, you've talked about that. You talked about the outside bars. In terms of, look, and I really get that the Adelaide Fringe has become a bit of a tradition. So we kind of know that it's going to arrive at this time every year. For some reason, it always seems to take me by surprise after Christmas, and all of a sudden it's here. It's like, wow, how did that happen so fast? But in terms of innovation, what else have you done that is, had you knock things out of the park rather than take for granted the fact that people keep coming back?
Well, I think most of the innovation at the Adelaide Fringe has come from listening to what people need, what the audience needs, what the artists need, what the venues need. So, we've built a whole new digital platform and ticketing system for the Fringe with a whole bunch more search functions that are all new this year, all about making it easier to find the show you're looking for. Because we listen when people say, it's too big, your program, we can't find what we want. So we've made all sorts of search functions now on, and they work on the mobile responsive app site, not just on the main site. So we've also just we've introduced Goose Chase, which is a smartphone app which you download and then you join the Adelaide Fringe game. And the more shows you see, the more points you unlock, the more prizes you win, the more we are making things on many different digital platforms that ultimately help the audience find what they want, have a great experience, but it also helps the artists sell more tickets. So a few years ago, magic was sitting in cabaret. Magicians would register, they'd go in cabaret. And then they were all, the magicians were revolting. They were like, we demand a category. And so we gave them magic as a category. And that is actually now a really booming category, by the way. People really love going to see magic. And we also introduced last year interactive as a genre, because more and more people were coming with things that were interactive and might have involved something digital, might have involved a walking around experience of not in a normal theatre or a traditional setting. So we thought, well, let's give them, they didn't fit in any particular place. So we gave them the interactive genre. We're the first Fringe in the world to launch an interactive genre. So we're always listening to what people, like when we heard the artists say we can't make our season make money, we went away, tried to what could we do to change our model. When the magicians don't want to be in cabaret, it was okay, we'll make them a category. Or, we also are creating Fringe in Your Neighbourhood, which is a whole lot of stuff that we're working with different partners on, so that people realise they don't have to travel. If they want to go to the Fringe, there's actually lots of Fringe shows nearby them. They don't only have to come to the city. And if, like this year, we created the matinee guide, where we introduced it last year, the matinee guide. And that was because we were getting told that lots of older people don't want to go out at night, and they just didn't want to go through the whole guide. They only wanted to know what's on during the day. So we made the matinee guide so that they can filter out the nighttime stuff, because they don't want to come out at night. And just always trying to innovate that meets the needs of the people, rather than only making up things that might not be of any use to anybody. That
makes a lot of sense. And certainly the innovators that we've spoken to throughout the course of the in-show thus far, it very much is about solving a problem for people. There's no use creating technology just for the sake of it. No. Otherwise it ends up being a very expensive exercise and someone just gets their rocks off at the end of the day. I love what you're doing with the interactivity, because, of course, for some people it's the most frightening experience to be plucked out of an audience. But I really get that for some people, they want their experience to be that they're part of the show.
Yeah, and there's more and more gaming elements getting introduced into shows now. And there's, digital projections. People are, more bringing together different disciplines and merging them into new art forms. And often they didn't fit in one area or not. And so interactive seemed like the natural sort of genre to create.
It sounds really exciting. You're really taking some, substantial strides forward. In terms of the impact the Adelaide Fringe has for the arts for the rest of the year, is there any sense that, people going out to see things that they wouldn't otherwise see outside of the festival is having them investigate the arts more so?
Well, we know for sure that we sell tickets to people that don't normally go to the arts, because last year we sold 660,000 tickets, which it is just unbelievable. It makes us the biggest ticket-selling arts festival in the country.
Wow.
And most very successful arts festivals in the country probably sell about 60,000 or 100,000 tickets. So it's not just a small amount bigger than that. It's like, 600,000 tickets. It's unbelievable. And we're on track at the moment to be about 5% up, it looks like. And so we know that people that come to the Fringe have never been to other arts. And so we do hope that we are training them to go, and then they have such a great time that they'll go and see other stuff during the year that may not have been in their comfort zone had they not used the Fringe as a bit of an experimental playground to give something a go. We've seen that audiences don't just come once and then disappear. They definitely are returning. We're seeing that in our databases as well, that people go and see a lot of shows. They generally don't just go and see one show, and they return the next year. And so it's a fairly loyal audience that we're building over the years at Fringe.
And you've really developed this sort of experiential thing, haven't you, where it's not so much about people going to see things that are good, but it's sort of the sense of discovery that, you just don't know what's around the corner. You sort of dip your toe in the water and go, I'll give that a crack.
Exactly. I think that's one of the main messages that we can put out to the world, which is take a risk, give it a go, have a try. Fringe shows on average are about an hour long, so they're not, and they're also, there are a lot of them are $20, $30. They're not. It's not $100 in 3 hours of your night. So that's where I think people will be more willing to take that risk, though. They can, if they take advantage of a lot of the great discount initiatives that go on through the Fringe, where some sponsors might be paying the top up to the artist so that the audience get it for half price and so on. So people can get to see a lot of stuff, not for too much money, and it's not too long, and they can come out and go, wow, like that was really, something like I've never seen before. Of course, there's things in the Fringe that are exactly what they expect, and they go and see those as well. But we always say to people, try something new, like go and see something that you don't know anything about. That's why we created the Goose Chase game as well, because the Goose Chase game, you only score lots of points if you go and explore lots of venues. You can't just go to the same venue every night and be in the Goose Chase leaderboard. You can't, So you have to get out there, and we really push people to explore all the nooks and crannies.
That's absolutely fantastic. Now, tell me, on a personal level, what are you really connected to? Like, what makes the experience of being the director and CEO of the Adelaide Fringe so personally rewarding for you?
I've always loved the side of festivals that's about being a connector. I'm a super connector. I love connecting people, and that's why I've focused very heavily on growing the behind-the-scenes marketplace at the Adelaide Fringe, because I'm trying to connect artists with people who might book them for the future to make their sustainable sort of living out of their art, rather than having to just do the Fringe and then go back and being a waitress or whatever it is that they have to do in between. So that's one of the biggest things that drives me, is that thing of like helping people navigate the idea of a career in the arts, and how can you have the business side of the arts is so hard, and it's really hard for artists. And so how can we make that so much easier for them? It's a very interesting position when you're the director of the Fringe, because you don't curate the festival. I don't choose the shows. And so I'm really there to help artists make the most, get the best experience, have the best time. We love running innovative marketing campaigns that get people that have never been to the arts to come in and see something that just blows their mind. These are all the things that, you have to love if you want to be the director of the Fringe, because you can't be wedded to the idea that you just want to select a few shows, and that's great. I've done that sort of as well as a festival director, and I love that too. But I really love connecting people, whether it's connecting the audiences, whether it's connecting the industry with the artist, and it's so rewarding when we matchmake thousands and thousands of meetings for artists during the Fringe, and then we hear later, oh, I got booked. I'm going to Tokyo. I'm going to Berlin. I'm going to London. Or sometimes they forget to tell you, and then we see it pop up on the internet. Oh, brilliant! We introduce those people, and that's really rewarding because we know that artist has got a chance of getting on the road with their show and things like that. But I also just love seeing the city come alive. The other day I said to the chairman, because it's been a pretty tough, it always is this period. This is tough because we're trying so hard. We're going a million miles an hour to get the Fringe ready. And I said, I can't wait for it to open because that's when you look around and everyone's alive and happy and the streets are packed with people and you just think, this is why we do this. This is why we do the Fringe because, everyone's happier. We bring a lot of joy. I'm thinking that I want to find some well-being researchers who would like to measure the well-being impact that the Fringe has, because we can measure things like the economic impact and, we can measure how many tourists come and things like that. But I think we actually are having a massive impact on the happiness of Adelaide, and we're helping people enjoy life more. So I'd love to, if there are some researchers out there in wellbeing who'd like to measure the happiness quotient of Adelaide during Fringe, we'd be very keen to talk to them.
Yeah, hit us up at theinshow.online. Heather Croal from the Adelaide Fringe, thanks so much for the chat and have a wonderful Fringe.
Thank you.
The Adelaide Fringe is on now until March 18, and if you know an innovator that we should have on the show, just drop us a line at theinshow.online. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Tomorrow we're going to check out what's in, and I love it when we pose that question to someone in an industry and you assume that they're just going to talk about what they know well, but often these people are inspired by ideas outside of their own industry.
Absolutely, and we're going into the world of food tomorrow. We're talking to Nicole Henderson from Plate, and she's got this amazing app which will help you with your grocery shopping.
We'll find out more about what's in for her on tomorrow's In Show podcast.
The In Show Interview. Subscribe to the In Show podcast on iTunes. A Dave and the Beanstalk production.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.